I'm Kara Takasaki. I'm from Aiea, Hawaii. I went to Panola School there. A lot of people, when you say wrestling, the first thing they think of is WWF, the chairs and lots of, I don't know, yelling, and it's not like that. I didn't actually have any idea what wrestling was about. I knew my brother was doing it in high school and that my father did it before, and I'd done judo in the past, and I was just curious. I just wanted to try it out. My mom and my grandmother were completely against it. They're both very old-fashioned, and when I stopped doing ballet, when I stopped playing piano, when I stopped doing this more feminine sorts of things, they were upset then, but now that I was doing wrestling, they were like, "What are you doing?" At that time, it wasn't so much, "I think this is going to be really good for my future." I think it was more, "Well, they don't want me to do it, so it must be fun. I'm gonna do it." It's the most challenging sport I can think of. So you watch everything you eat, how you sleep, what you exercise. Every part of your day is affected because you have to make weight. You have to be there for your team. You have to put out physically. All of my friends would go out to movies or do certain things, and I couldn't because I was either losing weight or going to practice or lifting weights. Everyone had different reasons as to why I shouldn't do wrestling. My father, I think the biggest one for him was that I was diabetic. Because I was diagnosed when I was 2, I never remember not having diabetes, but it's something that you always have to think about. Type 1 diabetes is basically when your pancreas stops producing insulin, the hormone which normally regulates the level of sugar in your blood. So when it stops producing insulin regularly, you basically act as the pancreas yourself, so you give yourself the dosages of insulin that you think you should be getting. The reason why wrestling is probably the worst sport you could do with diabetes is because wrestling is a sport that requires all-out energy expansion within a very short period of time, from like 3 to 6 minutes, depending on how long the match lasts. So having a 6-minute burst of energy where you throw out all whatever sugar reserves you have it's not easy to regulate. In my junior year of high school, my A1C, which is what the test they do every 3 months when you go in for a checkup as a diabetic, was out of control basically, and it was much higher than it should have been. My dad was really upset, so he basically said, "We're pulling out of wrestling. It's you're not going to wrestle this year or maybe ever." I was extremely upset because wrestling, it's my passion, and it defined who I was. I love it, and I love my team. I went to see my coach, who's also a math teacher there, and we talked about it, but it was difficult because he actually didn't understand, I think, the implications of the diabetic context. So his thing was, if you love wrestling so much, why don't you just get it under control? It's easy, right? Just do that. I think my dad also, in his unhappiness about what happened, about my health, he also didn't realize how much it was going to affect me. We worked it out as far as like me checking my blood sugar more often, getting it under control. I would be allowed to wrestle. My father and my brother, when they saw how much sacrifice and how much hard work and how much dedication I had for wrestling, I think we never actually discussed this, but it changed their minds in a lot of things. And I know when my coach wanted me to go to nationals for competitions, my dad went with me, and I think, although he'd never say it, he was very proud of me. Although it's a single person sport, the team is really important. As far as going on the mat, you're there by yourself, but it's a lot goes into teamwork as far as off the mat, because you're only as good as your teammates and who you practice with. The best wrestlers in my team were boys. That was just, there's 30 boys, 4 girls. I mean, what are you gonna do? The best wrestlers are gonna be boys. In Hawaii, because it was a separated sport, obviously when it came to tournaments, I only wrestled girls. But in practice, I always wrestled with guys, always practiced with guys. That's how I became good. I would say the reason why I was so competitive at a national level, at a state level, was just because all my practice partners were guys, and they pushed me. I know I personally had some personal self-esteem sort of issues. I was really amazing at what I did. I think what I did was extremely admirable, but at the time, all I could think about was how so many guys thought I could beat them up, or I was so intimidating, or I'm not really a girl, I'm like half man, because I only wrestled with guys. And that was something I was ashamed of, because I didn't want to, I'm just a girl who's good at wrestling, and I love this sport, and that should be the only thing that matters. And that is the only thing that matters. And I think that's what I would tell girls if they were in a similar position, is just to not be ashamed. If people are intimidated by you, they should be, because you work really hard, you give a lot, and you deserve to be where you are. And that's something to be proud of. That's something that not everyone gets to say.